and welcome to the AWE Cast. I am your host, Brant Fowler, and this is the reintroduction of the pending relaunch of the AWE Cast. That's Aftershock Wrestling Entertainment Podcast, and we're going to talk about some wrestling. But before we do that, I just want to talk about the show, what this is about, and then I'll tell you a little bit about my history with wrestling. And then I don't know why I have headphones in. I'm not talking to anyone right now, so I'll just take those out. And then I'll tell you about the plans going forward for the show, as loose as they may be at the beginning. So let's get into this. So if you're new to the show, if you're new to the channel, if you've never checked it out, me and my friend Chris, back in, I believe it was early 2020, started the show mainly to talk about AEW, All Elite Wrestling, if you're not familiar. And it was like right after Dynamite had started airing. I think it started in late 2019, and we were really into AEW, and we were watching it each and every week, and we were excited about wrestling again, and we got into it and started talking about it. And then the pandemic hit, and because of that and all the challenges that brought, and some personal stuff that was going on in both of our lives, we decided to hit pause on it for a while, and we come back to it eventually. But kind of life happened, and years passed, and a few months ago, I decided I wanted to bring it back. I wanted to do some version with the show. Chris still not interested, and he's not watching wrestling like consistently or anything like that. So I talked to him, and it was like, got his blessing to go solo with the show, and so that's what I'm going to do. And even then, it was like the timing wasn't right, and I just wanted to wait for things to line up perfectly. And with WrestleMania happening this weekend, I thought, you know what, this is the perfect time to bring this podcast back. So this podcast is, of course, a wrestling podcast, but it's not just about AEW anymore. It's about wrestling in general, WWE, Impact, whatever else I happen to watch that I may want to talk about with you guys. So that's what this show is going to be. It's going to be a very loose format. What it's not going to be is a recap show, but I'll get into all of that in just a minute. Just to give you a little background on who I am and what my love and my fandom for wrestling is. I've been watching wrestling since I was about 6 years old, and I didn't start with WWF at the time. Actually, I started with a show called CWA. I'm sure some of you know that promotion and are familiar with it. Superstars like Jerry the King Lawler, Jeff Jarrett, and Billy Joel Travis, Pat Tanaka, Bill Dundee, people like that, in that era, and kind of dating myself with that. And from there, I discovered WWF's Saturday morning show somewhere around the first WrestleMania, I guess, is when I started watching, maybe a little bit after. I'm not exactly sure. I don't remember. But ever since then, I was just like hooked. I was obsessed with wrestling, could not get enough of it. To the point, at the time, it was the same time that I really got into G.I. Joe, and I love G.I. Joe. You can see some of the G.I. Joe from paraphernalia back there. And by the time I was like 10, 11, I guess, my G.I. Joes were no longer G.I. Joes. They were wrestlers. And if you remember, WWF came out with these like little 4-inch figures that had like kung fu action. Some of them could leap, some of them could spin, and different things like that. And they had this blue ring. Well, that blue ring was the perfect size for G.I. Joes. And so that became the G.I. Joe Wrestling Ring. And what did I call it? GWF, G.I. Joe Wrestling Federation, I think is what I called it. But yeah, so that's kind of my history there. But when I was early, like preteens, early teens, there was a video rental store right down the street from where I lived, and I would go there every week and rent new VHS tapes of wrestling, or not new, but old. Like there would be like tapes of just all old Randy Savage matches, or Jerry Lawler, or there'd be like compilation matches from different federations, like bunkhouse matches with Dusty Rhodes and Dick Murdoch and things like that. And on ESPN and other channels on cable, I would find AWA and WCCW and USWA and UWF, all these federations, everything I could find. I'd soak up as much wrestling as I possibly could. And I never stopped watching wrestling my entire life. Even like when I didn't have cable, I would go to friends' houses and try to watch something. I'd have to pick between Nitro and Raw at the time. And so in that whole Monday Night Wars, like half that time sporadically in between, I missed like half of it because we would have cable for a bit and then we'd have cable for a bit and then we wouldn't. So, but I got enough of it to know what was going on. Of course, with the WWE Network and now Peacock, I've gone back and watched some of the stuff that I missed or rewatched stuff. And, I'm a huge wrestling fan. Right now, I am currently pretty much caught up with Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, Rampage, mostly NXT and Impact. So like Impact and NXT are the ones that I'm always just like a little behind on, but I try to keep current as much as possible with all of those. I was watching Ring of Honor 2 before it stopped production and everything, and now that AEW owns that, who knows? You know what they're going to do with that show, but I'll start watching that as well. So this show, therefore, is going to talk about all of that stuff. But what I'm going to do is, instead of like doing a recap, like, okay, this week on Raw, these matches happened, and these are my thoughts on this. I think there are other podcasts that do that kind of show much better than I ever could or I ever want to. I've noticed, like in past shows that I've done, I've kind of eventually devolved into that where it becomes a recap, and I come across like a little boring, and it's boring for me to do too. So I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick like highlights of whatever I watched. I'm not going to promise that this show is going to start like weekly. I'm going to try to be as consistent as possible. My wife was telling me that a podcast she watches, they call it the Sometimes Weekly podcast. And I think I might do something like that. So I'm going to try to be consistent with it, but there may be times where it's just not there, but and I don't know what the exact schedule is going to be, but I do know I'm going to start with WrestleMania because I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of great matches. I'm looking forward to Raw tonight so we can find out maybe how Seth Rollins is going to get on that card. I'm not a big rumor guy. I don't like to, I've heard the rumors, of course. I don't like spoilers. I like to be surprised. So I try to keep away from that. If something catches my attention, I may talk about it. But typically, if you want spoilers and stuff, this is probably not the show for you. That's not what I'm going to do. But I'm going to talk about highlights, things that I love, things like if, I don't know, CM Punk has a huge match, I'm going to talk about that. Even though, I'm not the hugest CM Punk fan. Don't hate me. I appreciate the guy, though, and I appreciate the impact that had for him to come back and to AEW. And I love AEW, and I love everything going on there. But there's a lot of wrestlers in WWE that I still like a lot as well, like Seth Rollins, like AJ Styles, like New Day, and thoughts and prayers to Big E for a speedy recovery, as by the way. And I just love wrestling, man. And from time to time, I'll probably bring some people on here to discuss something. Maybe it'll be a specific topic. Maybe it'll be a specific show. Maybe it'll be something from the past. Maybe Chris will pop on from time to time as well. I have several friends that I've talked to about this, and they're wrestling fans as well from different eras. So that could be interesting. You could bring somebody on that was a big fan of like 80s and 90s stuff. Or I could bring somebody in to talk about the latest pay-per-view from AEW, Impact, or WWE. So bottom line is I'm going to have fun with this, and I hope you have fun with it as well. And if you want to watch more of me talking wrestling and you want to get my take on it as a lifelong wrestling fan for decades, come back to the AWE Cast. You can find us on social media at the AWE Cast. That's across all platforms. And our website is AWE Podcast. That's AWE podcast.com. And that will take you actually to this YouTube channel for now. But we also have I'll try to remember to put it in the description below. We also have a newsletter that I'm going to try to be more active with as well, where you can get a free fan AEW comic that comic creator Todd Black generously let us have to promote the newsletter and get people subscribed. So if you'd like to read that free fan comic, you can sign up for our newsletter, our VIP mailing list, if you will, and get updates about new content dropping on here. This is going to be an audio podcast as well. I'm going to turn it into that. And I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to format the release of videos, if I'm going to put up the whole show on YouTube simultaneously with the audio version, or if I'm going to put clips and put it a few days later. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes and see what I have time editing-wise to do. But this is going to be fun. First official show is going to be WrestleMania this year, the most stupendous two-night WrestleMania in history, with the title versus title unification match and all kinds of other cool stuff. So it's going to be really fun to talk about that. And there's always surprises. I will probably wait until after next Monday's Raw, so we can get the aftermath of WrestleMania, because there's always a big stuff that happens on that. So look for this podcast I'm talking about to go up like Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. And so it's going to be fun. So I hope you join me. I hope you enjoy this reintroduction, and it gets you excited and hyped. And so I will talk to you soon about wrestling.